Funding for this program was provided in part by the AE Ventures Foundation, the Ludwig Vogelstein Foundation, and by the members of 13. Most children enjoy portraying the world around them or expressing the world within. Some of us retain that passion into adulthood, and one artist has made it his life's work to teach other artists how they can realize their ambitions through the art of printmaking. Artist Bob Blackburn founded the non-profit printmaking workshop in Manhattan in 1948, where he's provided inspiration to generations of artists for the past 50 years. Bob Blackburn has been the director of the printmaking workshop for 5 decades. During that time, thousands of artists have come from all over the country and all over the world to study the art of printmaking. At the printmaking workshop, artists are taught how to use various materials: copper, stone, plexiglass, linoleum, and even cardboard as a means for creating their own unique artwork.
I was really interested in making art accessible to as many people as wanted to do it, and at the same time giving them the opportunity to interact with each other, because the minute they come in, I try to get them involved, because I found that you can get richness from all over. You can get richness from Chinese who come there, from Koreans who come there, from Vietnamese who come there, from Irish who come there, from English who come there, and when they come there, they feel they can talk to each other. I tried to keep that as a foundation stone for what we're trying to do.
I was educated in Russia, and I grew up in Russia, and what's good about art school, it's very strong figurative tradition. The size not so important, not big size. It's very tiny media. If you look in Rembrandt's etching, he usually preferred small sizes because it's so tiny needle when you work, and you create a lot of space in small plates like this. That's why etching like small size. It's very, I couldn't find correct words to describe the feeling. It's some kind of poetry. What's special about etching, each print has personality. It's not the same. Warmer, darker, lighter, exciting moment when you pull out paper from plates and you see the result. Because you don't know for sure what happens when you pull out the paper. Each time it's like first time. Not bad. This particular miracle happened when you take prints from plate. It's very exciting.
I prepared a collograph plate. It's done by cutting into the cardboard, coating it with a gesso, and then shellacking it. And generally you can get several prints from this, so it will be an addition. Today we're trying something new, and we're going to try to do a color print. So Otto is assisting me. We'll use 2 different layers of color. Everything is done in layers.
Well, I'm hoping that we'll pick up a little traces of color in this, in these open areas down here.
Okay, here we go. Okay, that's it.
She's happy.
I'm a junior at Massachusetts Institute of Technology. I study mechanical engineering, but I'm also an artist. I got a fellowship from my school to study at the print shop this summer, which has been one of my dreams in life. So right now, I'm working on linoleum, which is commonly used on floors, kitchen floors. And basically you take a big slab of linoleum. You lay out your drawing. The whole trick in this is determining where the lights and darks go, how to create different grays within your piece to give it all variation and movement within your piece. After you cut it out, you roll ink on the surface, you put paper on it, run it through the press, and you get the image. And then there's another process called chinkole, which means China collage. And you take the same image and use different colored papers to give the whole image different colors by cutting out shapes and pasting them on to the linoleum block before printing. So while you run it through the press, they stick to the paper after you print them. A lot of Africans, a lot of Nigerians, my uncle is a carver in Nigeria. He carves different sculptures and stuff. This is sort of similar to the whole carving thing. It's two-dimensional, but it's sort of three-dimensional also. When I get back to Boston, I'm going to have a show in October. It's my first show of the work I've done this summer, so I'm excited, you know, and I'm just motivated to do a lot of stuff. I get inspiration from everyone and everything that goes on in here. I learn from everyone in here. It's definitely an excellent experience for me this whole summer.
I don't know where I would be if I didn't have this. I have learned so much being here. I've been here for 10 years, and it's amazing. I would be so upset if this place was never around. It gives you such a, I can't even describe, it gives you such a broad scope. Because I've edged in other places, and there's no place that has that same feeling of community spirit, of a whole world being here in one spot, you know, of Bob's spirit and his vision. I mean, there's no other place like this.
Actually, he's rolling up the image with black ink, proofing it up, so to speak. And he has replaced the crayon, or the transferred image, with ink.
Yeah, I've got to try different colors in that one.
So that would be one way of resolving it. I think you wear yourself out, my lovely lady.
Bob knows what it's like to struggle as an artist and the importance of having a mentor to offer encouragement along the way. Born in 1920 of West Indian parents, Bob grew up in Harlem during the 1920s and early 30s. The streets were bustling with recent immigrants from the South and the Caribbean. It was the golden age of the Harlem Renaissance, and there was an optimism in the air that found its expression in the new musical rage of the time, jazz. Nightclubs were swinging to the syncopated rhythms of Count Basie and Duke Ellington, and the intellectual world was taking note of black poets and writers like Langston Hughes, Richard Wright, and Countee Cullen, Bob Blackburn's English teacher. It was an exciting and stimulating environment, but beyond the familiar borders of Harlem, Bob was to learn something more.
I went to New Jersey to draw, and this white lady, I say white because she was, and she said, "Don't go down there, there's snakes in there." And I'm deathly afraid of snakes, and had never lived in the country. And so I was very careful not to go into that field, but she was doing it because she was trying to tell me, "I don't want you in here, nigger, so keep out of our property."
Perhaps because of Bob's early experiences, he's always welcomed artists from diverse backgrounds, encouraging them to explore their talents and to share their expertise with fellow artists.
Bob is very generous. He has a very generous nature, and he's all-embracing. He really feels for people. There's no monetary thought in his mind at all. And so he would invite people into the studio from all walks of life, and some of them could pay and some couldn't pay. And that's why it was always difficult. No one kept an eye on the cash register.
As a young man, Bob Blackburn studied at the Art Students League in Manhattan under artist and printmaker Will Barnett. Barnett quickly realized Bob's talent and their shared passion for printmaking. In 1948, they co-founded the Printmaking Workshop to preserve what was fast becoming a neglected and disappearing art form. Will Barnett, a renowned artist who continues to work in his 80s, has been a friend of Bob's for close to 60 years.
We've been friends all these years through very difficult years. As I said before, I'm probably repeating myself, the graphic world is like the world of economy, market. There was a period of the 20s where people made a lot of money doing prints. And then in the 30s, because of the Depression, prints were very inexpensive, but people could make not a living, but a few extra dollars here and there to support rent and so forth. And then there was like an abyss in the 40s. And also what happened in the 50s was that, and I remember it very well, that artists used to look down on printmaking, a lot of the artists. Particularly the abstract expressionist group used to think, oh, doing a stone, oh my God, it's a commercial. It's commercial about it. They were so fastidious about being just the peak of being just an artist. Another thing that united Bob and myself was aesthetics. We don't talk about that much, you know, we're talking about the medium. But you have to realize it's the aesthetics of picture making, of art, that bound us two together. He liked what I was doing, I liked what he was doing. We weren't just simply making a statement, let's say a social statement or a political statement or a gender statement or any of these things you hear about today. We were talking about art all the time. And that's what Bob is all about. That's one of the things I think is so great about his workshop. He's interested in art.
Because of the strong personal bonds that are formed here, it's not unusual for former workshop artists to drop by and say hello, even from as far away as Pakistan.
Hey, how are you? My God. Oh, wow, this is a surprise.
He is such a marvelous and wonderful person. I worked here for months and months and months. He brings people together, and it's not only people from here or New York, but it's internationally sort of. And I was really touched because some people came and they had some problem with the police and this and that. And without thinking twice, he was running about because they were working here. And as far as he was concerned, they were like his children or something like that. So he was just really looking out and getting intensely involved into a whole business till they got out of problem. And so it was, I think he's a very wonderful, wonderful person.
People come back and go and come and go, and some of them are in California, some of them are in China, they're all over. And I feel that they're all my family, our family, we work together. And I think that's the thing. I didn't know he was coming here today. I had no idea that he would be.
I just rang up this morning.
Came in, yeah. So I think this is one of the beautiful parts of it, that we do have our place open to anyone who comes in the door. If they're an artist or creator, I feel that they belong here. And so we just take them in and they become one of the family.
The printmaking workshop has given many artists the opportunity to work when they couldn't afford their own press. Several have gone on to exhibit in galleries, like artist Elizabeth Harrington. Born in South Africa, Elizabeth moved to New York in the 1980s. During an 8-year period, she was able to create her epic series of prints inspired by the music of Bach.
This prelude and fugue starts on A, and it then moves into perfect fourths which go up and up to the final top note, the beginning, and then as you see the spiral, you can see the shell, which is the golden mean. And if you put your ear to it, you hear the note boom, which is A. This is a prelude and fugue in A, and the theme often gets turned around the opposite way, like a puzzle. And I felt as if it was the maze as you go through it and into each area and seeing it from the top. When I arrived at the workshop, I just couldn't believe it, that I could start on all these preludes and fugues, and the last stage of it would require all these wonderful presses and on a big scale, because I'd started from small plates and I'd sort of wound up to getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and here was this place. And Bob saw me and he couldn't get over it. He just shook his head and he said, "Oh, Elizabeth, really, it's just wonderful." I mean, I was really enjoying it. Everyone was enjoying my discovery of Bach and the print. And Bob was there encouraging me to go on. So come on. I mean, there's often I sort of gave up so often to think I'll never make it. And he was always there encouraging me, giving me the space. It is the most wonderful place where you can really grow. You can become just a student into a professional, and you can share your ideas. You can see what goes on in the rest of the world because everybody comes to Bob.
Bob Blackburn's impact on artists now resonates around the world, as several former students have returned to their own countries where they now teach others. Artist Jo Rogge returned to her home, Namibia in southern Africa. In the capital city, Windhoek, she established a non-profit art center inspired by her experiences at the printmaking workshop. Namibian artists learned the various techniques of printmaking, drawing inspiration from their cultural traditions and their own personal vision.
The center here in Windhoek was directly inspired by the model of Bob Blackburn's printmaking workshop in New York. The time that I spent there, I got to know some of the structure of the center, the ideals behind it, and I decided to, on my return to Namibia, set up a workshop that would be run along similar lines. This was the installation of a press and to create an atmosphere where artists of different abilities would be free to come and work in a harmonious environment. I think the center plays a very important role in that it's the only facility of its type in Windhoek, and I think possibly also in Namibia, where students and artists have direct access to printmaking facilities without having to have complicated qualifications. I think Bob's influence is also directly felt here by the type of atmosphere that we have. The working environment is very free. Artists are encouraged to experiment with different media, different techniques, although we do some formal teaching for those who've had no experience. But I think the most important thing is that the total atmosphere is, to my mind, directly influenced by what I felt and experienced while working in Bob's place, I would call it, in New York.
Bob Blackburn's extended family has become truly global, and knowing that the spirit of the printmaking workshop has given birth to other art centers, both in the United States and throughout the world, gives him special satisfaction.
These people are all going out there spreading their love and their enthusiasm, and I think that's what is important. You leave something behind. It's all about leaving something behind.
In 1992, Bob Blackburn received the prestigious MacArthur Foundation Award for a lifetime dedicated to promoting the arts. But Bob's focus is on the future, not the past. And his dream now is to inspire the next generation. He established an outreach program in the New York City public schools. Here at Pier 75 in Manhattan, with a grant from New York City Department of Cultural Affairs, third graders are taught how to create prints based on short poems they have written.
Balloons flying high, blowing away in the night sky. Never to return. That sounds so sad. Maybe they'll come back.
It means so much to those kids to be able to write their thoughts down and someone would listen to them and someone would look at it. And the light that comes in these kids' eyes when they see that you really, really enjoy their doing this is inexplicable.
Longing to get out, longing to get through safely, yet they have to wait. Well, the print has to do with Anne Frank, who had to stay in the secret annex for a long time. And the print is of somebody looking out a window onto the things that are outside.
I feel it's very important that every little kid who comes in there, he feels welcome. You see them all as equal, not Spanish, not black, not Jewish. You see them as kids who want to
create and express themselves. Some little kid will come up and, hey boss, when are you going to do another class with us? That's the thing that, because I know what that meant to me.
This has been so exciting. This has been so exciting. I've learned a lot. I knew nothing about printmaking, so I'm learning, and a couple of times I've tried classes when the teachers weren't here, the printmaking teachers weren't here. And a lot of them said, no, no, that's not the way it's done. They didn't do it that way. You have to spray it, or you have to make sure the paper is wet, or she told us we could roll it out, you know. So, you know, I learned, they learned, we help each other. It's been great. I've been very excited about this, yeah. Hope it continues.
Lovely.
Oh, no. What do you think?
Nice.
It's
Very
nice,
artistic.
It is very pretty.
Very artistic. It came out good. I think I'll hang it up in my room somewhere and put it in a frame.
Once they started working, they forgot who they were. They forgot all the differences. And I think that that's what the art I'm speaking of can do. It's a weapon to bring people together as against a weapon to tear people apart.
He's opened it up a great deal to a lot of the younger generation over the last 25, 30 years. He's introduced them to this printmaking, which they never would have been able to realize if Bob wasn't around to really offer them this opportunity. It's almost like a spiritual battle to stay with it, you know, and stay with what you believe in very strongly. And I think that's what Bob is all about.
When you lie in bed at night and you start thinking, you say, what am I leaving behind? And some people can point to a large volume of work, a large volume of production. And I always try to say to myself, well, my production was minimized because I put a lot of energy into this place. But that was a creative thing, and I think because it was a creative thing, I accept the fact that that was a contribution. I didn't become Van Gogh, but how many Van Goghs are there? How many Cezannes are there? I'm still working, thank God. And if you don't get joy in doing it, then God help you. But what you could do if you want to get something else in there, you could do a chincolé on there. And that would give you the background tone. But I think that this one it's too active, too much going on. For the
paper,
the paper, it interferes with you seeing the image.
But this is my first time with the
Oh, your first time? Oh, well, if this is your first time, then that's magnificent. Oh.
I think the most important thing is that you realize that what you're doing is not in vain. It does get discouraging at times, but you do realize that it's not in vain because many people have been touched, and they've touched each other. That's most important. They've touched each other.
This printmaking workshop is, for me, the mirror of what happens outside. Yeah, all this, like we said before, all these different colors, temperaments, minds, all these different people. And you need somebody who needs to be very altruistic to bring those people in a place together. That means to be able to give a big part of your own, of yourself, so that somebody else, to make place for somebody else to come in and to work. And this is what I respect in him from the very first second I get to know him. Now I came in and he says to me, where are you coming from? I come from Greece. Did you know Jo Rogge? I say no. Well, it happens that she studied in Berlin 2 years before I began to study. So he gives me his telephone number, I call here, and throughout all the world we meet down Christie Street in my studio talking about the years in Berlin. I mean, what can make it possible? That's it.
What does it all amount to? If you don't bring the truth to your life that is implicit in that toucher la main, je t'embrasse. If you don't bring that into your life, what else do you have it? After you have all the money, all the riches, and you sit up there all by yourself, and it's very painful. You have nothing to, no memories, no souvenirs, as they say in French. that really touch you.
Funding for this program was provided in part by the AE Ventures Foundation, the Ludwig Vogelstein Foundation, and by the members of 13.